get the word out. Thank you for tuning in, y'all. Get this word out and then we will get fired up. All right, everybody, welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC, and honestly speaking, it's gonna be a rough day. I'm a woman, so it's gonna be a lot of talk that some of you who don't bother to understand what our basic biological functions aren't gonna probably understand or want to understand, get skeeved out, grow the fuck up. I am on my monthly and it hurts and I am exhausted, but I am still going to do this because there's a lot to talk about. One of the things that I definitely am going to bring up today is the double standard of our nation. The two stories of these young men that have gone in such different directions, but not surprising if you're black in America, and just what it means to be a woman, because there are a lot of really weird famous gatekeepers to my gender right now that I don't seem to understand, because y'all don't turn out to protect our rights to vote. You only care about your income bracket being protected, and now you want to come out against anything that doesn't center you when you don't center us in the first place. Too many of you want to define what makes a woman without even caring with the fact that we're not respected. We're definitely not protected, even though they try to float that bullshit. We are always the ones at the bottom of the fucking barrel. And sometimes the people stepping on us the most are the ones that look like us and then try to convince us that somebody who dares understand their truth is more of a threat to us. Inclusionary language to remind people that trans men can actually get pregnant, that the transgender way of being is a thing that has been with us since the beginning of time. Actually, if you actually knew history, which I wish we would learn more of, you realize that LGBTQ plus mindsets, lifestyles, ideas have been around since the beginning. But they have a church coalition trying to enforce their ways as the norm. That's the only thing that straight people have that the LGBT people didn't, was a driving, monetarily motivated force to try to say that relationships meant two separate beings that can create another being need to get together, and we have bought that crap hook, line, and sinker. They never taught along with that to respect your partner. No, if she's a woman, who cares if you respect her? Make sure she can pop you out babies, and if she dies, she dies. You can just replace her. Y'all have allowed the devaluing of women so badly that it's really funny to me when somebody calls themselves something proudly as a TERF without realizing that you do more harm to us women with your exclusionary attitude than it would for me to embrace my trans sisters who know the struggle of misogyny and hate and a world that unjustly wants to treat you like shit for being who you are. Nothing that's in your control. So if you're going to be a bigot and try to follow me, you're going to get your feelings hurt. Because I'm full on in the realms of cutting out the toxic in my life, protecting my peace, and seeing people who they swear, oh no, I'm on your side. We women got to stick together. But the first thing out of your mouth is to shit on somebody who's already struggling. Trans women are more likely than any of us to be killed because people think, oh, they're just pretending to be women and it's my right. It's not your right. And they are women. And I have never, ever once felt so insecure about my own femininity that I had to worry about a transgender woman declaring their femininity, because that doesn't take from me. And the fact that there are women out there today in this day and age who can endure open-faced misogyny from everybody around them, but yet get in their fields about gatekeeping the word feminine from somebody else is just beyond me. You're not going to sell me on your brand of bigotry. And I think I need to speak up because there are way too many people. I seen y'all making Macy Gray's name trend. I forgot she existed. And it's not that I hated her music or anything. She never vibed with me right. So to have her say stuff like that, and it's coming from a place of ignorance. I don't think Macy's out there really hating on transgender people, but I honestly think that there are a lot of women out there that don't seem to understand that inclusion doesn't mean that we're hating on women. But we women need to really work on our attitudes. It's funny how feminism is used as a weapon against the people that it's supposed to be defending. And it's exhausting. And welcome to the chat, Beans. I just get so frustrated with the amount of hate that seems to seep in to even sex that is supposed to be inclusive. And we in the marginalized communities cannot afford any more fractures. We have enough battles within our own groups. We have enough damage control to do within our own communities without having to give in to everybody's desire and covet to feel more special than everybody else. If you get out of that mindset, you start to realize how ridiculous it is. Transgender women aren't my enemy, so you're not going to make me jump on some bandwagon to make their lives, which are already hard, harder. It is insane to me the amount of supposed straight women who y'all want solidarity with my black ass to protect your rights. Y'all want solidarity with men to protect your feelings. But you're willing to turn your back on a fellow sister, and this is why we can't trust you. The moment you have an acceptable form of bigotry, the moment your heart gives in to that easy button of hate, I know I can't trust. You're not on my side. I'm here for my trans sisters because I know they'd be here for me, and they have been here for me. One of the first women in my life that helped me see that I didn't have to conform my blackness, that I didn't have to change who I was my hairdresser Champagne in New York. And she put up with so much crap from her family, from people around us who should have had her back, but couldn't understand who she was. She held her head up high. And she made everybody around her beautiful because that was her gift. That was her calling, to style our hair, to listen to our laments, to make us feel good. She could have had bitterness. She could have been hateful. She could have made us feel awful about her plight, but she didn't. She took her gift and did her best, opening her house to people, being there for people. And I am so sick of straight white women, as it seems, and some famous women who want to try to define femininity but be exclusive about it. This is not a club. And some of you are real about protecting our gender when it suits you. But when we need you to rally around and do things that will defend our rights, because right now I'm currently not sure if I'm going to be able to get the IUD that I've been using to shrink my fibroids. Thanks a lot, non-voters. The consequences of your inactions is going to affect so many of us medically. People left and right talking about medicines that they can no longer qualify for because it could cause abortions. This is fucking with people's health on a grand level. You want to preach about somebody calling themselves a woman. You don't even care about who gets to call themselves a woman. It's all about control, and use are useful pawns to hate chess game. Stop it. Anybody who follows me and calls themselves a TERF needs to hit that unfollow, because if I find you, it's going to be embarrassing for you. Because cutting people off, I have learned the older I get, the less inclined I am to hold on to people that stress me out. Somebody dear to me learned that this last few days. And I don't want drama. I'm not going to bring up names. But anybody who follows me knows what happened. I don't like instigators. And there have been a lot of people who utilize Twitter to just fight with people. I get it. Like, if this had been 5 years ago, I would have been right with you. Amplified up, instigate, and jump in there, because that was the old New York mentality. Means I don't know if you can back me up on this, but telling you, it was just something about living in New York. You were either a fighter or an avoider, or sometimes you got a little bit of mix of both. I was one of them crazy New York chicks. I just hit 5'3" at 50. Okay, so I'm not a tall person, and I think I really embody that short girl with the attitude mentality. I don't know if we just crazier in a tiny package or what. But fighting seemed to be my life, and I hung out with the people that took full advantage of that till it got exhausting, till you got jumped more than once, and you start realizing I'm not going to survive this if this keeps happening. I am literally not going to survive the next time a group of people want to just kick my ass because I'm hanging out with such and such. It comes back at you. Welcome to the chat, Israeli. This is one of my dear friends too. And I think people need to understand that I've seen this pattern play out online. People that act like they are on your side, well-meaning, but the moment you don't fall in line with what they want, which is to argue with other people and pile on other people, even though that other person is only there to piss us off, you're the enemy. So I will say this. I don't want to draw battle lines. I think that person is still okay under most circumstances. I just can't fuck with them no more. I realized that I am in protect my peace mode, and it felt for me like they had a problem with me for a bit, but they couldn't figure out a way to get at me, and this last thing was their way of seeing if they could draw battle lines. I am just going to cut ties. It is much easier for me not to have a big beef with somebody who I still respect, but I just can't stand. I don't want to fight with people all day, every day. Twitter is like my park, as I said in my mental health vlog. I wouldn't sit in the park and let people come and harass me and my friends. I'm not going to let my social media continue to devolve into us arguing all the time. That's not fun for me. When I did it consistently in 2016, it burnt me out. I nearly quit. Why should I stop utilizing a place that I still have fun in because somebody else gets their jollies just constantly fighting all the time? There's better things to do. So I'm just putting it out there because I know people have been in my DMs. I know the things that are being said. I don't care. Let them talk. I've moved on. I feel like a lot of people mean well too. So don't take it the wrong way. I know that you were just trying to have my back. I'm over it. We are well over 45. I am too old to play these games with other old women. And I'm not running a clique. If you're mad at me because I didn't jump to somebody's defense, move on. I am not going to get pulled in the high school level clique drama anymore. I'm just too old for it. And there's just so much going on. Like my poem here said, and this was just written on the fly because I was just so frustrated taking in all the information, not just from what happened yesterday, but everything that I'm finding out about Jalen Walker, which it doesn't help that he has the same last name as me. And I'm praying that he's not like a distant cousin or anything, because you never know. My family is freaking huge as it is. But when you think about what's considered a threat in our country versus literal manifestos, these young men able to buy rounds of ammunition. I looked at this fucker. I'm telling you right now, when you look at this guy, and I hate to be one of those, don't judge a book by its cover. No, I'm judging the book by this cover. I'm totally, if I seen this walking down the street, and I'm from New York, so I've seen weird shit. But if I seen somebody that looked like this walking down the street, I am going the other way, or I'm getting in defense mode. Because he looks like he causes trouble. He looks like he sits at home muttering to himself, looking for a fight. Like that Travis Bickle scene from Taxi Cab Driver. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I just have a bead on people that like to start shit and I have a magnet for them. But why is it that guys like this aren't considered threats? Because you sure as heck will say a guy that looks like this is. Jalen. He ran like anybody who's felt like their lives were in danger. from a force that was overly doing it for a fucking routine traffic stop. They tried to say, oh, he had a gun in the car, but he didn't have a gun on him. He literally ran from you. Why couldn't you arrest him later? Why is it that black bodies are automatically treated 50 times worse when it comes to chasing them down? It's because the thrill of the hunt in the former slave patrols that we now call our police force are trained to look at us like animals, trained to look like hunters. Chasing to them, Jalen was no more than prey for them to chase and hunt down. And they're like, oh, the tasers didn't work, so let him go. You knew his name. You could have easily let him go and picked them up again. But you don't do that for Black lives. And you're going to convince me that it made sense to shoot that guy in his back over 60 times. Over 60 bullets flow for one black body. Yet this motherfucker who literally looks like he was out to kill, was able to get to a parade, arm the fuck up, and take lives. The double standard, y'all. You can't ignore it anymore. So many people try to act like we can't see it anymore. But it's there. And then you have our allies, which is infuriating enough, complaining about not being messaged to, complaining about not being talked to, not being catered to. But what more do you need than this system is not sustainable? It cannot do what it was promised to people. The illusion of the American dream needs to be shattered. And we need to rebuild in an America that recognizes that we're not all white, we're not all Christian, and we're not all on the same page, but we all need to work together if we're going to survive this. Because this shit is infuriating. It took 8 cops and over 60 bullets to take down one black body. But in the space of weeks of this idiot plotting and planning, nobody around his orbit at all decided we need to stop him. We need to figure out why this, what's his name? I don't even, the shooter irks me so badly. This homie guy. Why is he so angry? What is it about their demographic that needs something like this? What is it about their demographic that inspires so much hatred? And of course, people want to remind us all that he's a Trump. It doesn't matter at this point. Trump wasn't the only route to this. White supremacy is. And there are way too many young men being indoctrinated online, spreading their bullshit online and not being checked, getting easy access to weapons, and doing stuff like this. And they're being taken in alive because their rights are still more respected than mine. I can't make this make sense. And it's infuriating at this point. And the fact that he's a little hateful bigot pisses me off. Because nothing says America like angry white kid who everybody caters to, getting mad because she's not wealthy enough. So I'm going to take it out on everybody that don't look like me because somehow I'll be a martyr to whatever dumbass cause. And that needs to be nipped in the bud too. But what's worse is that he's cushioned by people who want to think about mental illness all of a sudden. He's not mentally ill. But people want to act like, well, he's a lone wolf. No, he's a clone wolf, as I've seen that tweet, and I love that tweet. There are a lot of men like him, and there are a lot of women who coddled and raised men like him. And there are a lot more of you who want to jump in and tell women like me, let's not talk about race as being divisive. You don't want to lose your rights, but you don't want to vote. You claim you don't like racism or bigotry, but if talking about it hurts your feelings, you're more act to yell at the people talking about it, who are often the victims of it, than to work on yourself. You refuse to understand that you're part of the problem, and you don't want to be any part of the solution. You just want the benefits of it. And it's getting tiring. For those of us who have to survive this, for those of us who have no outs, there's no tag outs in life for us. We have to constantly figure out ways to navigate your fuckery, and it's exhausting. This young man should have been on every kind of FBI watch list. If I put BLM in my bio, I am at risk to be put on a terrorist watch list. Even under Democratic leadership, because our FBI classified Black Lives Matter as a group to watch. Because how dare we activate activism asking to ask for our lives to matter? How dare we say, hey, we're citizens too. Please stop murdering us. Please give us the right to a fair trial and attorney. Please stop shooting us in the back over 60 freaking times for routine traffic stops. How dare we ask for our lives to matter? How dare we organize and protest and take those protests to the ballot box? Because that is exactly what they don't want from us. So they terrorize us by calling us a group to watch. They won't dare say hate group because they know better. But the fact that under 45, we were literally put on a watch list, anybody that dared associate it with Black activism, it doesn't shock me because they did the same thing to the Black Panthers, but it's fucking terrorizing enough as it is. Because these fuckers put manifestos, they congregate on Facebook, they congregate on Xbox Live, they are able to open face, spout their hatred almost unchecked. But let me say my life matters. And all of a sudden it's a bridge too far. It's too radical. It's too divisive. You motherfuckers, yesterday, when George Takai gave a very poignant, I'm on the same page as him, thought process of being an American that isn't considered an American. Because George Takai and his family are Japanese Americans. During World War II, as a child, he had to be put in an internment camp. And I know that some of you don't understand what that feels like. If you're not Jewish American, you might not understand the connection. If you're not a current American with ties to migrant families, you might not understand what it's like to have everybody you love rounded up, put in a building, and not know if you're going to get out of that building alive. And I would not recommend wanting to go through that. But there are people that have those ties. And George Takai is one of our elders who has that horrible history, those memories. And he shared why he celebrates the 4th despite it all. Because it was never about promises. It was about making America the kind of nation we need. If we just give in and give up and stomp our feet and pout instead of fighting for what's ours, what's the point? But of course, like a train that nobody asked to pull into the station, you have these people that come in from the demographic that does all the damage to tell him, the person who went through this, that talking about his reality is divisive. And I just don't understand it. I don't, is there like a memo or a club thing that is indoctrinated from birth to give you that line to tell the people who are marginalized? Because I don't get it. And then worse yet, and sorry guys, I'm not dehydrating today. I'm on my period, so I'm keeping the fluids going. Having white women, not only with the TERF bullshit starting me up, but yelling at us about them messaging, it felt like it was getting a toxic combination of entitlement and ignorance that I just I can't wrap my mind around. You keep yelling at me that it's not your fault that the Dems don't have a message, right? I say, I don't need a message. I know that protecting my rights and voting beyond myself is important. Well, I'm not an elected official. Yeah, I know you're not an elected official. I gave you the very simple thing you could do to help put an elected official. That way you don't have to hurt your little brain too much. Thinking beyond that. And you're still not putting the two and two together. This woman she just wanted to be right in the argument. I get it. We got elders on our side to do that too. I can't help them after a while. I'm not going to sit all day arguing with you or make you understand the lack of knowledge that you push as being informed. Some of you that think you're on my side, Parrot and Trevor Noah of all people, who wants to penalize Dems for not doing their job my brain goes, Trevor Noah really does not, I hate to use the term, but really does not have skin in the game. And I'm going to be 100%. The Daily Show used to be one of my favorites. Favorite thing on Comedy Central, probably one of the few things that I would have still kept watching, and it just started to get old. And when Jon Stewart left, I tried. I gave Trevor the benefit of the doubt because I wanted to see where he went. And I wanted to support. I am full on support my people. Even my people from other countries. And he just kept hitting with heavy Bernie Bro stuff. I tried to ignore it because I don't try to push my agenda on anybody. I just spout facts and hope that it gets through to people. But the stuff he was saying as a joke started to really rub me the wrong way, and I just stopped watching him. And then I started watching him use his platform to say really asinine things. And now this latest thing of, well, if the Dems don't do stuff for the SCOTUS, penalize their funds. And it's like, you do realize that politics is not a game. I know some people want to treat it like it. I know some people think, oh, I could just say something and it has no effect. But the less money that we drum up for candidates' campaigns, the harder it's going to be in states where people think, oh, it's just a red state anyway, that we can win. If we get out the word, if we have people that can phone and text bank, if we pay for certain resources to get them on the air so that they can talk and spread the messages that we need, that is where that money goes. And like I said, I am team broadcast, so it irks me that somebody like me who gets plenty of fundraising emails, I just ignore it if I don't have it. I don't get mad. Why the hell are you getting mad at the party that's fighting for your rights, asking for fundraising stuff? You're not mad at the Koch brothers, who only want to protect their tax dividends. You're not mad at other white people who literally vote against all of our best interests. It is like I said on Friday, and I mean it. I feel like America right now is a teenager just rallying against everything that could be help guide them into proper adulthood and functioning stuff. You have enough of us telling you, hey, if you do things this way, it'll be less painful. No, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to do things my way. Pay attention to me. I hurt myself. You took my rights. What am I supposed to... And we'll watch you whine about stuff that we warned you was going to happen, but you didn't want to listen. We were just the parents that you didn't want to listen to. And now, all of a sudden, and welcome to the chat, Terry Antico. Exactly. I wish people would get that. All these people talking about penalize the Dems, hurt the Dems, hurt the Dems funding. You do realize that, say what you want about the conservatives, because I have plenty of nasty thoughts about the conservatives. They fall in line when it comes to the thing they need to do the most, which is vote. One of the things that I hate admitting is being related to anybody that has that ideology, but we have a few. And even though they're indoctrinated to vote. And that is how we need to be, because voting is not a part-time gig. It is a full-on personal investment that some people think I can half-ass that, and it won't be bad. But our midterms have shown too many of you think I only need to worry about the nationals. Understand that if your state level politics suck, our national politics are going to suck. The president's hands are tied by what your state legislators will do. And if you're in states like Florida with DeSantis, Kemp's run Georgia, Abbott's Texas right now, you have people vying like Stacey Abrams, Val Demings for the Senate, Charlie Crist for the governor of Florida. You have so many people in Texas, but Beto is who I am hoping will replace Abbott's ass. We cannot afford for people who want to yell about fundraising emails to be louder than the people who are like, hey, I'm for this person. Let's get these assholes who are taking your rights out of here. I can't trust the noise of supposed allies that only want to complain. But if you put their voter report cards up there, it ain't looking good. Because they still need messaging, which is, you can't make that make sense for me. What more message do you need? They literally took 50 years in a coordinated effort by both stealing our Supreme Court, making sure that we stay apathetic by continuously attacking the only side defending us, and some of you fell right into that mindset. But they took something that should have still been here, that is directly impacted a lot of our health rights now, and got rid of it. Say what you want about conservatives, but they have that staying power and that focus, and they vote, and that is why we're losing stuff. Because some of you still need to be catered to. Some of you still need to be talked to. Some of you still need to be motivated to do. It took me less than 10 minutes now with the absentee ballot. I was able to sit at my computer, pull up Ballotpedia to figure out the justice stuff, because that was the only thing I wasn't too sure on. Justices don't have to campaign the way regular politicians do. And as a black woman, I need to know who's my justice, my district court justice here, especially as a mom of a young black son. In America, it's important. So I took the time to look all it up, and it was easy. There is literally no excuse for anybody in Michigan to not either be registered for absentee ballots or do the early voting. And if you're not of the demographic who has to worry about gerrymandering, who has to worry about voter suppression, who has anybody that looks at you funny when you stand in line to cast your ballot, you have absolutely no excuse, but you are the loudest this week, making demands about messaging, making demands about needing to be motivated. But you're also in the same breath yelling about Roe being taken away. How are you missing the connection? And then when we tell you the demographic who's most responsible for the mess we're currently in, well, it's not my job to do anything about that. You want me to have to... Sir, ma'am, I've had to hear about black crime in Chicago for the last 8 years. I don't know why. I've heard Chicago is a very beautiful place, honestly, but I have never been to Chicago at all. I'm from New York. If you wanted to tell me about New York violence and crime, yeah, I can even testify to it. I probably have some relatives that committed stuff to contribute to it. But the way people would talk to me about black issues, as if I'm like the queen arbiter of that shit, yet when I tell you that the problems stem from your demographics entitlement, and then I get the deflection of, well, that's not, I can't do nothing about that. But you could, if you really wanted to. I'm supposed to. If it was me and my sister girls, you would ding me for not saying anything to them. But I don't have to, and you know it. So instead, you get on me for talking about the issue instead, and that's a deflection, and I don't have time for that anymore. We cannot distract from the fact that we need you to vote whether you're motivated or not. Because your lack of focus is why we're here. And this need to constantly be centered and entitled does nothing for us. It's like the women argument again. because I'm going to keep bringing this up, because the loudest people that call themselves TERFs are the people that do the least to protect us as women and whole. And you might get a few stray sister girls that want to jump on that. They're the same ones who will say things like, well, how can we as black women make up for the fact that black men are feeling emasculated or other dumb hotep shit like that? I can't claim every single sister girl as part of the 95%. There's still 5% of us that are wayward. It's just the way it is. But for the most part, black women understand what it's like to have to fight for our femininity. We were constantly called out of our gender. So no, we're not going to let you dog on our transgender sisters. Because you don't even want to share it with us. We're not dumb. We see it. And it's just insulting and infuriating when I watch white women try to gatekeep what femininity is. When you literally voted in 55%. Yeah, the number went up in 2021. Or 2020 for Trump. This man showed us in 4 years what he thought about us collectively. By putting Kavanaugh on there, by putting the handmaiden, Conan Barrett on our SCOTUS. You seen his own wife didn't even want to fucking touch him. But still, 55% turning out to make sure that fascism lived. And when you look at January 6th even, it wasn't just angry men yelling. Ashley Babbitt died because she was full-on indoctrinated to be a gatekeeper fuckery. Some of y'all love being gatekeepers, but what are you protecting at this point? Y'all don't respect being a woman. But you want me to respect your ideals of being a woman, which is talked down to, married off way too early by a husband that's probably double your age, raising people that you don't really want to be taken care of anyway until he leaves you for somebody younger because that's his paradise. Some of y'all play games. And then your little crotch goblin who's fostered in a house full of neglect, having the Bible preached at them but nothing else, no love, no kind of real structure, gets a gun and takes a whole bunch of lives and is still treated better than my son wearing a hoodie in his own damn neighborhood. Make that shit make sense. It is exhausting. And welcome, King Kai. Welcome to the chat. I cannot stress to you enough, as a black mom in this society, how tiring it is for me to try to explain to my son how to seem safer in his own country, that he is going to hopefully work in, thrive in, live in, but can't exist safely in, simply because people perceive him as a threat. Yet if he was a few shades lighter without my influence and went online with a Nazi symbol on his face, he could literally walk into a crowd with a fucking AK-47 and take out lives and still be alive for it, and that makes no sense to me. And to act like I'm not allowed to talk about this very blatant double standard, to have people who swear that my allies say that it hurts them more for me to bring this truth up than the truth itself, I can't deal with this anymore. It's not right. And the things we could do to make things better, the stuff that we can work on to work on our own attitudes. It is infuriating to me that I am constantly talked over. I constantly have people parachuting in, and not all, but enough of you. And if that is if your first line when you hear somebody who is talking about racism to come in to say not all or not me and not realize that none of that matters and that it is the act and that you should be upset at the fact that we are going through this and that detoxifying bigotry is a constant eternal process and nobody is 100%. I'm talking a really good game now, but me 20 years ago, that wasn't the same woman you see sitting here. And even growing up in New York City, if I was going to act like I didn't have any bigotry or prejudices, that would be a fucking lie, and we all know it. New York might be a melting pot, but if you don't think there were little separate sects all over the place, you're a liar. And the person that tried to firebomb me and my family out of my house happened in good old New York City. Bigotry and hatred is everywhere, and we need to stop being willing pawns in this toxic life game. And there are far too many people who indulge. And King Kai, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that pissed me off about social media the last few days, when the amount of people talking about using sovereign lands, because one popular supposed native account, and I say alleged native account because, like everything online, anything can be fabricated. But this account is popular, and I've never had any beef with this person. But he made the mistake of saying that we should start putting abortion centers on there. As if he could just be the arbiter for every single nation. Now, I tell people all the time, my ties are from my great-grandfather, who was, unfortunately, one of those children that were taken by white people to rehouse as Christians. He fell in love with my grandmother, great-grandmother, and got disowned by his white family. These same people literally stole him from his people because they thought they could raise him better than his people. There's so much disconnect in my bloodline. It's not even funny. So much meddling from well-meaning white people in my bloodline. It's not even funny. So it is infuriating when I watch white people say, we can just reuse stuff that y'all already took from people that you never even tried to fully repair the fractures with. And now you think you could just utilize them again instead of doing your bare minimum political investment, and it's tiring. There is not going to be a quick fix for this. There is not going to be an easy button for this. We need everybody who considers themselves a Dem to be politically invested. We need you, if you are 18 years and older and able to, casting your ballot. We need you informed in your politics as you are in your favorite TV show, your favorite sports team, your favorite anime or manga, because it matters. And I say this as a full-on geek who has fandoms galore. I know who my rep is. I write to Senator Stabenow a lot. Her office is very nice, very pleasant, and helped me with a lot of issues, because that's what elected reps do. But a lot of you don't realize that. I didn't even realize that until a few years back when I had passport problems. And Senator Burr, of all people from North Carolina, his office helped me. Got me in at an office in D.C. Told me that even though I was blatant that I would never vote for him, that it is his job to help his constituents. And that is when I learned it shouldn't matter who is at the helm of your office currently. Call them. If what happened at that July 6th parade troubles you and you're wondering if your legislator gives a crap about gun reform, write them, call them, keep on them, and know who your voice is. But some of you want to play games. You don't want to emotionally or personally invest in politics, but you want to complain that the sky is falling. Complain that your rights are being eroded away. Complain that your handmaidens, when you are literally giving them the tools to make you that way. You can't complain about what we're losing if you invest nothing of yourself, because you didn't lose anything. In fact, you helped gain loss for those of us who are putting in the work, and we're tired of acting like we don't see you. I see you. The same people that are saying things like the Dems aren't message. What more message do you need? Did you not survive the 4 years of Trump with us? Did that not scare you into understanding how bad things could be? Because that was more than enough. I had the wake-up call before him, but after my friend, who should still be here, we were supposed to turn 45 together, and she died on a respirator. I am never letting you forget that. Her last photo image was on a respirator saying, I'm hopeful that they'll figure this out, and they didn't. And she's not here. And we were supposed to turn 45 together, and we're not. Because Trump decided to downplay COVID. And because people, the same people who want to talk about their rights all the time, didn't want to mask up, didn't want to go and social distance, wanted to kidnap my governor because she dared to lock the state down for our safety. Entitlement and toddler tantrums seems to be America's greatest problems. You combo that with an ease of access to firearms, and it's no wonder every few seconds there is incident of gun violence. But it's funny, even with all of that, only one group is constantly treated as a constant threat. And as the mom of a beautiful black child who's tall, who has a full beard now, and he doesn't like shaving, I try really hard to remind myself that he's got to grow up. He's got to become a man, and I'm going to do my best to protect him. But it scares me the closer he gets to 18. It scares me letting him go out into a world that isn't going to understand him, that he's going to try to understand, but has to deal with unjust prejudice. People assuming that he's a threat because of his size and his background without getting to know the sweet child he is. And it doesn't seem to make sense to me. And I've had him keep his head down, keep focused on his passion, which is marine biology. But I can't stop this world from assuming stuff about who he is, and it's infuriating to me. Because you can let a young man like that murderer, and I'm just going to call him a murderer, wander around saying hateful things, waving a Trump flag and neo-Nazi shit, and nobody bats an eyelash. It's just another day in America for him. But a black child has to try to look less threatening. And they weren't threats in the first place. We have to stop this. I'll tell this story at least every other Bonnet Chronicles now, but I want to reinforce the idiocy of it all. When I lived in North Carolina, I did tax preparation as a side business. So I got clients that would come into my house, bring all their information. And living in a nice little diverse nook of North Carolina, I had all kinds of clients. And one of the ladies that came to me was from Bangladesh. And I don't think people need to understand the insidiousness of racism. But when I say it's that deep, that even other people of color engage in it, it is that deep. And this Bangladeshi woman came in, tried to hit it off with me. And at first she seemed nice. She's a client. I'm going to treat her like I treat everybody I do business with. Respectful, talk with them. She wanted to hang out after, and we did. The stuff that came out of this woman's mouth about black people, as if she wasn't sitting next to a black woman. But I guess she thought because I lived in a decent neighborhood by myself with my son that I was one of those. We have them in my community. You know those people that think they're far enough removed from their melanin that anybody can feel safe around you. And she talked a shitstorm about black men and how black men are scary. And I can't stand black men. And kiddo came downstairs. She praised, oh, he's so cute, he's so adorable, he's so polite. And I was like, mm-hmm. Kiddo went back upstairs. And I said, point blank as I looked at her, and he's going to be a black man. And she left after that because what do you say? You literally forget that your bigotry has a cost. And that cost was any kind of friendship with me. I didn't want her around my son. Talking shit about the people that I'm right here. I didn't stop being black because you don't see a penis. But that is how insidious racism is, and how comfortable some people get espousing it, and how they think that because you do better for yourself or you're educated that you're supposed to disconnect from who you are. And sadly, there are some people that do that, but not all of us. And just because my partner might not share my same cultural background doesn't mean I have to be divorced from my cultural background. I know it's hard for some people to believe, but we do exist out there. And what's infuriating about this is how many of us struggle against people who claim to be down, claim to understand. One of the things that I love about Axiom, and I tell you all the time, is he never fakes that funk. He never tries to act like he fully understands everything we go through, but he listens. He provides that ear. He doesn't try to provide the answers, which is so rare. He might make a joke or two sometimes, but it's not done to downplay what I'm going through. He is the partner that I really didn't think I would ever find. And I honestly was planning before we started dating to just do the rest of my life on my own, because it was insulting and infuriating dealing with men who, they act like they care about you being a woman, but they honestly devalue you if you can't do what they need of you. And it doesn't matter what background you come from. If you view women as an object on what you can get out of them, you are not doing this whole human thing right. Your partner should be that, and it's a partnership. And way too many men devalue that partnership and then wonder why the partnership fails. But when you have that evenness, when you have that equalness, when you are willing to listen, even if you don't understand, it makes things better. There are still things about men I don't understand. I live with two guys. There are things that make my head hurt living with two guys sometimes. My son is literally becoming a grown man, and some of the shit that he does makes my mind boggle. But I realize that it's easier to be to question, try to understand, and learn than to just go, man. But women aren't paid that same respect, and that's got to stop. Because the root of all of our current troubles is baked in historical misogyny. The root of our current woes is because we still try to thrive in complete inequality and act like we can't see it. This society is never going to function as long as we treat everything as separate but equal, which is a lie. As long as we act like there is somebody more important to listen to than anybody else, as long as there's a hierarchy of things like marriage in the house instead of an actual partnership, if we treat things like pregnancy as something to protect, but the lives after are nothing and stuff that we can throw away, if something as simple as somebody's skin tone makes them more of a threat than somebody literally walking around armed to the teeth, no, the standard isn't working. And it is on us to question, call this out, and change attitudes. But it starts with us. And I think that's why it's so hard for so many people to wrap their minds around. Yeah, I tell people to gather others, but you're not going to be able to gather others. The reality of the situation is the only way to stop bigotry is to work on that person you stare at every day. And it takes a full commitment to undo that damage. And not everybody's going to see you doing that commitment, and you shouldn't be doing that for those reasons. Because that right there is another red flag that too many people ignore. The need to say, well, I'm anti-racist. Pat me on the head. Don't you see my BLM in my profile? And then you evolve into saying horribly racist or bigoted things. But we're supposed to ignore it because you put BLM in your profile. That's not going to work. Well, yeah, activism depends on how many Patreon hits you get, or how much people hit your Cash App or Venmo. If your activism is funded, that's fine. But I'm always questioning those types because they will switch on a dime to keep those funds flowing. My message has always been the same. Vote because your rights are on the line. Vote Dem because the other side really wants to be the ones to take our rights away. Vote because it fucking matters. And these midterms are scaring the right people because they are very loud trying to destabilize the vote. Very loud criticizing everything. Because they know that too many of us have seen the writing on the wall, understand the assignment, realize what we can get when we turn out, and we're not going to stop. And we're asking the rest of you who sit around complaining and ready to call the manager to join us, because then we would really be an unstoppable force. But we are going to keep turning out with or without you. It'd just be better if you joined us. Honestly speaking, I don't want to spend every Bonnet Chronicles begging people to do their bare minimum civic duty, but so many people have a disconnect in what is needed to be done. Y'all really will say things like, well, we gave you Biden Harris and, this is what's happening. Forgetting that we literally came from 4 years of fuckery that they have to work to undo. And they still have 50 different states run by different senators, different governors, doing their own stupid ass thing. And if we want a functioning nation on a state level, you need to kick your reps into gear. They need their kick in the ass, and that comes from voter turnout. And I am really tired of the people that want to ding me for my views on protests right now. So I never said don't protest. I said your protests don't impress me, because you don't turn those selfies at the protest to a ballot. And some of you were real hit dogs hollering at me about that, and I don't care. Your feelings need to be heard. If you're out there taking protest photos, if you're out there holding up signs about Roe, but you're not going into your early ballots and casting and making sure that your legislators are out there to protect our rights, what's the point? It's all performative. I call out performative activism all the time for BLM. I'm not going to not call out your performative rowing, because that's all it is. You lied about something that we want was going to happen. And the thing that you could have did to prevent this from happening, you scoffed at us. And now you want to play the blame anybody but me game, and that's not going to work, because, like I said, my voting report card is solid. All A's. I make sure my voice is heard. I know my reps, because I have to reach out to them. Their offices are amazing. Their interns are very sweet. And when you call them, be polite. A lot of times, these are freaking college-age kids, sometimes younger, depending on the summer, because they intern there. Don't call them yelling at them like they're to help. Be polite and work with your officers, because that's what they're there for. You want a functioning government that can help you? Work with them and get them elected. We can do this, but we have to want to, whether we feel centered or not. Because as a black woman in America, I don't know what that feels like. So it vexes and frustrates me when I hear certain people say that. What more message do you need? And how are you going to make that make sense to those of us who vote anyway? Because we never needed a special message. We understood what was at stake. We never needed to worry that everything was going to fall apart, because we knew it could. Because we came from chaos. And all we want is stability and harm reduction. We want to live just like you. We want to be citizens in our own country. We want to survive and not be the next memorialized hashtag. And I think that's what I need to stress as we get ready to wrap this up, because so many supposed allies, they equate what happened to Roe as an inconvenience and a threat to their existence. They equate their student loans, and it's always a financial thing. And I get it, being poor for some is oppression. But when you put that up against the fact that Jalen literally is running for his life, all them cops just gunning for him, when they could have let him go and picked him up again. Yet, that other kid, who literally looked like he wanted to be in a fucking Punisher comic, was able to wander around with guns, unchecked, and open fire on innocent people. I'm tired of there being two Americas. I'm tired of people acting like we can't see the double standard. It is so blatantly in our face. And the only way we are going to fix this is to do a personal attitude adjustment. Every day, check yourself. Check any bigotry you have, whether it's against somebody you don't know and understand, whether it's something you used to think was funny but you realize isn't. It is not that hard to reset your own ideals on what humanity is and better yourself, because that is the only way we are going to get a better nation. And I really need people to personally invest themselves in their politics. Know who's representing you on a state and local level, because we've seen what happens when we get lax. We've seen what happens when we let the apathy in. I'm going to be back on Friday. I want to thank everybody, and I honestly mean it, everybody who made my book possible. There are just so many of you that we're up to 75 books now. Let me show this off. I couldn't believe it. We have officially sold 75 altogether, 10 today. So the numbers keep going up. My first sci-fi novel. I thank everybody because I took a chance. I honestly wasn't sure if I should share my writing ever. And you are helping me see that I was being silly. So I definitely want to thank you. And I want to thank all of you who sit in on these Bonnet Chronicles, all my mods who, thank you so much for having my back. I'm glad and blessed to be able to do this. And I want to keep it going. So I will be back on Friday with more of these. Hopefully it'll be a less heavy topic. But even if it's not, I am going to be here to talk about it all, because this is what we have to do. We have to keep it focused, keep us together so that we don't lose any more things. But I will be back next week. Thank you all for sitting in. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, Terry.